It always sounds grander, I think, when we hear it.
That's right.
So, Brent, you and I have been coming to AWE for the last, I don't know, 5, 6 years now.
Yeah.
And it's always interesting seeing the evolution around kind of the discussions. And what's impressive and what has been a pleasant surprise to me is that 5 years ago we came in talking about the art of the possible.
Mm-hmm.
And here in these sessions and then beyond, we're really also seeing people talk about what is being done today.
Yeah.
And people coming forth with sharing metrics. And I think you'll also agree that if we look at the behavior of the Fortune 500 executives, common client bases that we work with, that's also changing. People are moving with a greater sense of urgency. And I think people are no longer trying to go and figure out what the art of the possible is, but what can be done now.
Yeah, yeah. That's a lot of the work we're seeing with our clients, at least, is that the days of proofs of concept and little innovation-led efforts are, there's still some of those, but our more serious clients are taking AR and VR as real strategic initiatives. They're starting with the end in mind, and they're looking out to build systems that integrate throughout their business.
And I think, if we look at your career at Accenture, and you've been there a long time now.
Yeah.
It's kind of a microcosm of how that conversation is shifting, because you started, in building AR and wearable tech solutions for Accenture Labs.
Yeah.
And now you're heading up an AR, VR, XR, if you will, capabilities at the mainline practice within Accenture.
Yeah, that's true. And again, echoed in our clients. Like so many of the early relationships I had, and probably even out in the audience, are folks from innovation labs. And that work is super important. That's what led the early charge and brought us all here. But it's super cool now that we're turning the conversation to be about data and ROI, and even some of the work that Upskill's leading is proving that.
So, talking about you guys kind of being in that system integration business, what are some of the factors that are important to you in being able to go and create that stickiness? Because at the end of the day, we're here talking about, how to go and create stickiness within enterprise AR.
Yeah.
I think a huge part of that is wrapped around the non-technical dimensions of what it actually means to get there. So, love to get your thoughts on this.
Yeah. I mean, we wouldn't be anywhere without the system integration aspect of it. But I think equally important are the business integration pieces and of course, I guess the people integration, because so many great XR initiatives have just been one-off silos, and we've seen a single business unit or a single part of IT launch a great project that then doesn't have the broader support of the company. So it's about that business integration throughout the organization, and it's about getting the people on board. Hiring the change management experts, convincing the end users that there is value in these systems and that they can do their job better.
And I mean, I can think of a couple of different examples, but one in particular where you guys literally wrote the manual on, or I should say rewrote the manual on how to go and bring AR into the system.
Yeah, we worked with a mining client in particular and took a more thoughtful approach that said, let's look at your governance policies, and let's actually see how smart glasses can be combined with the existing outlook on mobile devices. How do we do mobile device management? How do we create a secure environment? What happens when someone walks off with a pair of smart glasses, right? And with that in place, they were then able to grow the technical aspects of the implementation and make it sticky.
Yeah, and for sure, there's a lot of interesting things that you have to do just to be able to go and make that first implementation, and then get beyond kind of the pilot stages.
But once that, I would say, once the initial work's done, once the platform's in place, there's so many new applications that you can spin off and other groups that you can bring in within the organization, furthering that kind of sticky effect.
And I think a good example of what we've done at Upskill is, what was done actually now, unveiled for the first time 2 years ago. That's the work that we did at Boeing.
Yes.
Around a wire harness assembly, really complex process, high variability. And it wasn't just the technical component that was there, it was also integrating into the business, being able to go and establish best practices and working kind of across all of the different stakeholders within Boeing, which is a really large business, to be able to get that to stick. And of course, they've been calling this a step function change, 30%, improvement in productivity it's nothing to scoff at.
What were those users like, or what was that experience? What was it like?
You know, referencing the video that I think has now become somewhat famous, it's about being able to create a more comfortable way to go and work.
Yeah.
I think, and particularly if we look at the wearable portion of AR, that's a big dimension as to how you go and get that workforce buy-in. You know, people were working with stacks of paper. People were working with laptops and other kinds of workstations, and at the end of the day, you know, that's not the right interface for people to be consuming that kind of the workflows and processes and the information that they need. And what we saw there was that, for example, you know, someone who's been working on the manufacturing line, and let's say that he or she's been doing that for 20 years, after an 8 to 12-hour shift on a workday, they're going to go home and they're going to be a little sore, and they might even wake up sore. And as you and I are learning over the years, that you know, it's getting harder and harder to wake up in the morning.
What I think is interesting here, though, is that you know, a couple years ago, the conversation was around, oh, are smart glasses safe? Are they ergonomic? Do you get eye strain? And those issues are still a valid point of conversation and things we need to talk about throughout the industry. But here you have a case where the ergonomics of the old way of doing things were so painful that people were experiencing fatigue, and the ergonomics of the new way of doing things improve upon that. I love that.
Yeah, and I think it is right about finding the right points of entry.
Yeah.
Finding the business case as well, but you know, when it comes down to the people, it's less about being able to go and drive the quantitative kind of business outcomes, you know, productivity, savings, and safety, and whatever. They're great to the business owners, and of course, those are, you know, that's a major factor in being able to go and make the investment. But you know, once you talk about engaging with the people, it really does come down to some of the qualitative metrics.
Yep.
You know, in user satisfaction studies and surveys and other kinds of things like that. I can certainly think of a couple of different examples. I got one, and that was at GE Aviation, where we had 85% of the respondents that came back and said that AR and smart glasses actually made their jobs easier to do.
I love that. That's cool. We worked with a European telecom, saw similar results where, like, over 13 weeks, we'd survey the users at each point, and every week we saw user engagement grow, and again, up into the 90s. And this was an older population too. There was a lot of knowledge transfer going on that the smart glasses helped enable. So, like, I don't know, at least I was particularly proud to see that we had new buy-in from a new generation of folks.
Yeah, and I agree. I think we hear that more and more nowadays, is that, you know, the people that are on the verge of retirement are actually looking at this as not necessarily a tool that is a piece of technology, but it is a tool that allows them to be able to go and transfer their knowledge to people that are just coming out of trade schools and entering the industrial workforce, and it's actually helping them, you know, on the older end of the workforce, actually elongate their career.
Absolutely.
As they're staying within the business. And you know, that's a very impactful statement on what AR can do kind of as a future of work.
Yeah, I love that. We've had a lot of use cases where folks just go out and do their job. They use the camera on the smart glasses to record the procedure, archive it, tag it in the knowledge repository, and that way the older generation can still contribute towards training, but at a much more leveraged scale.
So it's almost about like being able to democratize access to knowledge, information,
Yep.
and being able to go and make that, you know, available to everyone.
Certainly.
So, you know, and Upskill has been working on a project over the last few months, working with a major automotive company in being able to introduce a mainline, you know, operations example, as well as also a training example. A new product is being built, and you know, that actually requires the entire workforce that's scheduled to go and work on that line to be retrained, whether or not it's your day 1 on the job or day 3,000 on the job. You know, the fundamental need to go and get spun up on that new thing doesn't change.
Yeah.
And you know, this is a project that we've seen some staggering outcomes in terms of being able to go and shorten the RAM time by 35%, being able to go and increase first-time quality by 38%, which has a corresponding impact on reducing rework, which is usually one of the most you know, high-cost items that people and businesses have to go and account for. And now that we've kind of set the stage for that, we're now working with you to be able to go and kind of transition that and allow that customer to create even more stickiness across their global operations.
Yeah, myself, Accenture, very excited about this. It's actually the first time we've talked about it publicly, but Upskill laid the groundwork with a great pilot, and those metrics are pretty impressive. I think what's exciting from our perspective is that as we think about creating stickiness, and we scale this to multiple countries across thousands of users, multiple time zones and currencies and cultures, that will certainly be a challenge, and it's going to take a coordinated effort that again goes back to more than just system integration. It's going to be business integration and people integration, and we're structuring that such that there will be trainers, change management experts, IT support involved at all touch points throughout that deployment. So what have you learned in the early pilot about engaging users?
I mean, once we created that kind of initial level of success, and we see this as, Upskill being a venture-backed, software company, being able to go and do that across companies that have tens of thousands of employees that can be impacted by this does involve, a small army of people, whether or not that's you guys at Accenture, us, and customers, or maybe the 3 parties and more working together. It makes you appreciate kind of the level of effort that it actually takes to transform the business. I think the term digital transformation gets thrown around a lot. And I think, the overall effect of what we're trying to do is it's a valid one, but transformation also doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen with 10 people in an office somewhere.
Yeah, certainly.
So, as we're thinking about the digital transformation or the AR journey, maybe we were being a little unfair to the group here, saying that we're painting a rosier picture, everything is awesome, the impact is great, but you and I learned also firsthand that the line to progress and line to that kind of AR ubiquity isn't a straight one.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know, I think back the last 5 years or so, we've seen a few projects, a few pilots that either weren't successful or were successful, but our clients still decided to postpone mass adoption. And I think that's totally fair. But what gets me excited about coming to AWE is the release of new chips, new hardware, and it's not that those use cases will never work. It's just that they couldn't work at the time. And so it's natural that there will be some use cases we run into that we just say, not today, not yet, but we'll get there. And so with every new AWE, we get to experience what those new use cases will be and what we can start to explore.
Yeah, and again, a lot of this is, if we're talking about the different waves of technology that's going out there, everything is shifting first from people talking about the art of the possible. You're starting to go and see that around mixed reality applications and other kinds of things like that. And even that is shifting into, what is possible and what is being done. So I think AWE is a great forum to be able to go and look at, what could be done now and also, what could be done later. And being able to go and build that blueprint, if you will, is that's an important part of what you guys do as a business.
Absolutely, yeah, that's how we scale.
So, I mean, talk to me a little bit about, creating that blueprint and how that creates that kind of the stickiness.
Yeah, and even with the automotive client as an example, I think having a platform in place that we can then add on modules as we experience early success is crucial. Getting a small group of passionate stakeholders is crucial, right? Sharing their success with the broader audience, and having that coordination across the business is. You can have amounts of success without it, but you're never going to have kind of massive, coordinated, sticky success without it.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, the business element of that is being able to go and write the standard operating procedures of AR.
Yep.
And I know that I've seen you talk at other conferences where you make the statement that AR is the new instruction manual.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's easy to ignore a stack of papers, but when the instructions are in front of your face, when they updated last week and no one updated the paperwork, that's the future. That's how people want to work. And it's exciting to think that we're making folks more efficient, more engaged, safer, more more ergonomic, if that's a word, at their jobs.
And I also want to talk a little bit about this idea of a digital literacy. This actually came up at a Gartner conference that I was in a couple of weeks ago, where it's no longer people learning about the specifics of the work that they do, but being able to go and build literacy around the tools that they're using, whether or not that's AR glasses or AR-enabled tablets or even smart tools or whatever it is. Being able to go and drive that kind of digital literacy actually enables them to be able to go and do different work. So the role that technology has on the whole, and this also kind of talks about the workforce engagement portion of it, is being able to go and clearly articulate and engage your people early and often around this technology having a role in being able to go and move folks higher up in the value chain.
Absolutely.
And if you look at technology historically, and we're kind of in that industry 4.0 era, there's a long history of technology having moved people up to a higher value job.
Yeah, I think of the work we're doing with our automotive client. We're taking folks who've never worked on a given assembly line before and instantly upskilling them to have a new skill set.
Thanks for the plug.
Yes.
And if you think about what would be the one advice, actually, I think you want to go and give to audience in getting people started?
You've heard it said before, but I think it's about starting with the end in mind. And if you want to just prove that AR, VR is innovative and show the art of the possible, I will not stop that. That is still beneficial. It moves the cause forward for everyone. But to really achieve scale, think about that platform, think about the training, think about the change management and how you'll coordinate all efforts of the system integration, the business integration, and the people integration together.
And I want to go and end the talk around the people integration part of it.
Yeah.
The role the mission that we collectively do, you and me and everyone in this room, it really is about being able to go and leverage technologies like AR and impact people and enable them, upskill them,
Sure.
To be able to go and do their best work. And that's also been the favorite part of my job as well, being able to go and also work with people that are wrapped around the common mission and being able to fundamentally transform how work is being done. And also, of course, on a personal note, the friendship that folks like you and I have built along the way.
Yes, yes.
Being able to dig in and work, but also at the end of the day, go and grab beers at happy hour or grabbing a beer in Germany at Oktoberfest.
There you go. Yeah.
So it's those kinds of friendships and the partnerships that I think we're building and impacting people that's really exciting. And really want to go and thank you for joining me here. I think it's exciting that you and I are finally able to go and share the stage. And
Yeah, absolutely.
can't wait to see how it's all going to shake out.
Yeah, my pleasure. Couple questions?
Yeah, so, one question was, and perhaps to you, what was one of the use cases that was passed on because the hardware wasn't ready?
In general, they've all involved ruggedized environments. And so, whether connectivity became an issue or the device itself couldn't withstand the environment, that was typically the case, and I'm excited to see some more ruggedized hardware continue to evolve and receive appropriate industry certifications.
All right, and with a few seconds,
Down
you speak to an example where the workforce adoption wasn't successful?
It would be the one or two times I'm thinking of are instances where the use case kind of led with like monitoring or the T-word tracking, and it wasn't as much sold as like, this is a tool that will help you do your job better. You will be safer. Because I think we all have too many tools to do our job, so it's about users buying in that, really this will make me more efficient.
And this is a great question. What's the one thing that we can all take back to our company next week to help with AR stickiness?
I would say coordination across the business, right? Picking that platform, getting the business buy-in across teams, and really thinking long-term about how this will be a strategic advantage to your company, not just a little innovation project.
And I would also add, moving with a sense of urgency as well. Yeah. I think there have been now more examples out here at this conference, at other conferences, to say that your competitors are probably doing it. So it's no longer appealing to you guys wanting to go and do it, but there is now a pull motion rather than a push to go and make it all happen.
Now we've got the data to back it up.
That's right. Love it.
Cool.
All right. Thanks again, Brent.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
All right.